Long ago, in a kingdom hidden between mist-covered hills and silver rivers, there stood a town called Evershade. It was an ordinary town in almost every way. The bakers baked bread, the blacksmiths forged horseshoes, the children chased fireflies through the evening fields, and every morning the great clock tower in the center of town chimed exactly 12 times. But there was one thing about Evershade that was not ordinary at all. Inside the clock tower hung a secret clock, a clock that did not measure hours, a clock that measured tomorrows. No one knew who had built it. No one knew how old it was. All they knew was this. Behind a locked silver door at the top of the tower, enormous golden gears turned endlessly around a face made of moonstone. And every person in Evershade had a tiny, glowing number written beside their reflection whenever they looked into the moonstone face. The number showed how many tomorrows remained in their life. Most people never saw it. The silver door remained locked, the tower remained sealed, and the secret remained hidden. Until the day a boy named Rowan climbed the tower. Rowan was 13 years old, curious, restless, always asking questions. The kind of child who took apart clocks just to understand how they worked. The kind of child who followed mysterious footprints into forests. The kind of child who never stopped wondering. His grandmother often laughed. "One day, Rowan, your curiosity is going to get you into trouble." She was right. It happened on a rainy autumn afternoon. Rowan was chasing a white raven through the town square when the bird landed on the clock tower, then disappeared. Not flew away, disappeared, straight through the stone wall. Rowan stared. "That's impossible!" Which, of course, only made him want to investigate more. By sunset, he had found a hidden staircase. By moonrise, he had climbed hundreds of winding steps. And shortly after midnight, he found the silver door. The lock was ancient, covered in strange symbols. At its center sat a single keyhole, and hanging from the keyhole was a white feather, the same feather the raven had dropped. Rowan slowly picked it up. The moment his fingers touched it, click! The silver door opened by itself. The silver door creaked inward. Cold blue light spilled into the stairwell. Rowan stepped inside and immediately forgot how to breathe. The room beyond was enormous, far larger than the tower should have contained. Golden gears floated through the air. Stars drifted between them like sparks. And at the center stood the moonstone clock. Tick, tick, tick. Every movement echoed through the room like a heartbeat. Then Rowan saw the reflections, thousands of them, floating mirrors, each showing a different person from the town. Beside every reflection glowed a number: 15,432, 8,001, 26,789, 3,115. Numbers counting downward, slowly, relentlessly. Tomorrows, future days, lives. Rowan stepped closer. His heart pounded. What is this place? The clock answered, not with words, but with a movement. One gear turned, then another. The moonstone's surface shimmered, and suddenly Rowan saw his own reflection. He froze. Beside his face glowed a number, 4,382. 4,382 tomorrows, roughly 12 years. His stomach dropped. 12 years? That couldn't be right. He was only 13. He should have decades, an entire lifetime. Shouldn't he? Then something moved inside the reflection. A shadow. Not Rowan's shadow. Something else. Something standing behind him. Tall, thin, made entirely of darkness. Its eyes glowed silver, and it smiled. The reflection whispered, "You should not have come here, Rowan." Rowan spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. When he looked back, the shadow was gone, but another number had appeared beneath his own. A new number, one that hadn't been there before. 4,381. It had already decreased. One tomorrow gone, one day borrowed, one day lost. And somewhere deep inside the clock tower, something ancient awakened. The ticking grew louder. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound seemed to come not from the clock itself, but from the walls, the floor, the stars drifting through the air, and somehow, even from inside Rowan's chest. He stared at his reflection. 4,381. The number glowed softly beside his face. One less than before. One tomorrow gone. His mouth felt dry. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." The moonstone's surface rippled, and the shadow returned. This time, it stood directly behind his reflection, tall, thin, wrapped in darkness that moved like liquid smoke. Its silver eyes gleamed, and its smile widened. Rowan stumbled backward. "Who are you?" The shadow tilted its head. For a long moment, it simply watched him. Then, to Rowan's shock, it stepped forward, not out of the room, not from behind him, but straight out of the reflection itself. The moonstone's surface stretched like water, and the figure emerged, silent, graceful, terrifying. The instant grew colder. Stars flickering between the gears dimmed. The ticking slowed. The figure's silver eyes locked onto Rowan. "You opened the door." Its voice sounded ancient, like pages turning in a forgotten book, like wind moving through empty ruins, like centuries speaking all at once. Rowan forced himself not to run. "Who are you?" The figure studied him, then answered. "I am Knox." The name seemed to echo through the tower. Knox, 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 as though the clock itself remembered it. "You're the one from the reflection." "Yes." "Why is my number changing?" Knox looked toward the giant moonstone clock. A strange sadness crossed his face. "Because you touched the clock of tomorrows." Rowan's stomach tightened. "What kind of price?" Knox's silver eyes met his. "The clock feeds on possibilities." A cold chill ran down Rowan's spine. "What does that mean?" "It means every answer has a cost." The gears overhead suddenly shifted, thousands of golden wheels turning together. The room filled with moving light, and Rowan saw visions. A little girl becoming a painter. An old man meeting a grandchild he had never met before. A sailor returning home. A mother surviving an illness. A child discovering a cure. Millions of futures, millions of tomorrows, all connected by shimmering golden threads. Then several threads snapped. The visions vanished instantly, gone, erased, as though they had never existed. Rowan gasped. What happened? Knox looked away. Borrowed tomorrows. The words hung heavily in the air. When someone steals a tomorrow, Knox continued softly, another future disappears. Rowan stared. You mean the clock cannot create time? Knox's expression darkened. It can only move it. The truth struck Rowan like ice water. Someone could gain days, years, even decades. But those days had to come from somewhere, from someone. No. Rowan shook his head. No one would do that. Knox's face remained unreadable. You would be surprised what people do when offered more time. Suddenly, the clock tower trembled violently. Several gears jerked out of rhythm. A deep, metallic groan echoed through the chamber. Knox instantly turned toward the moonstone clock. For the first time, Rowan saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. What is it? Rowan asked. Knox didn't answer immediately. The moonstone's surface began turning black, slowly, like ink spreading through water. The floating reflections flickered, one by one, hundreds disappearing, thousands disappearing, entire futures blinking out. Then Rowan saw it. A reflection appeared in the moonstone, not of himself, not of anyone from Evershade. A stranger, an old woman wearing a crown of iron branches. Her eyes were completely white, and she was smiling. Knox stepped backward. No. The word came out almost as a whisper. No, she found us. Rowan looked between him and the reflection. Who is she? The old woman's smile widened. The moonstone cracked. A thin black line spread across its surface, and the woman's voice emerged from inside the clock. Cold, patient, terrible. At last. The entire tower shook. The last tomorrow has been found. Rowan's heart stopped. What the what? But Knox's expression had gone pale, because he knew exactly what she meant, and whatever the last tomorrow was, it was far worse than losing a single day. The clock tower groaned. Golden gears shuddered overhead. Thousands of reflections flickered wildly across the moonstone chamber, appearing and disappearing like candles in a storm. And in the center of it all, the old woman watched, smiling, waiting. Rowan could barely breathe. What is the last tomorrow? His voice sounded very small, very young, very human, in a room that suddenly felt far older than the world itself. Knox didn't answer immediately. His silver eyes remained fixed on the moonstone reflection, on the woman, on the crack slowly spreading across the face of the clock of tomorrows. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight Rowan had never heard before. A mistake. The woman laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. Oh, Knox! Her white eyes gleamed. "Even after all these centuries, you still call it a mistake?" The crack widened. A thin line of darkness leaked from it. Not soft, not shadow. Something deeper, something that seemed to swallow light itself. The stars drifting between the gears dimmed whenever it touched them. Rowan stepped closer to Knox, instinctively, as if standing near him offered some protection. What is she talking about? Knox's jaw tightened. Then he looked at Rowan, and for the first time Rowan saw genuine regret in his eyes. "Long ago," Knox said quietly, "before your kingdom existed, before the rivers carved their paths through these hills, before even the first kings were born," the gears overhead slowed, as though listening. "There was another clock." The woman's smile faded, only slightly. "It was larger than this one," Knox continued, "and infinitely more powerful." His silver gaze drifted upward, remembering. The first clock. Rowan felt the room grow colder. What happened to it? Knox closed his eyes briefly. "We broke it." The woman laughed again, louder this time. "You shattered eternity itself." The moonstone reflection darkened, and suddenly images appeared across its surface, ancient memories, a world Rowan had never seen. He saw enormous cities made of crystal, golden towers stretching above the clouds, rivers of starlight flowing across the sky, people who glowed with silver fire, a civilization impossibly beautiful, impossibly advanced. Then he saw the clock. It stood at the center of that ancient world, larger than mountains, its gears turning among the stars themselves. Each movement reshaping fate, each tick creating tomorrow. Rowan stared. "It's beautiful." Knox nodded. It was. Then the vision changed. The people were arguing, fighting, demanding more time, more years, more tomorrows. Some wanted longer lives. Others wanted immortality. Others wanted power. And the first clock could grant it. At a cost. Always a cost. The ancient world became greedier, crueler, desperate. People began stealing futures, borrowing centuries, taking tomorrows that did not belong to them. The sky darkened, the stars dimmed, the clock began to crack. It wasn't meant to carry so much theft. It wasn't built for endless greed. The vision shattered. A massive crack split the moonstone clock. Faster now, hungrily. One reflection vanished, then 10, then 100. Entire futures disappearing, entire lives erased before they could happen. "Knox!" Rowan shouted. "How do we stop it?" For a moment, Knox said nothing. Then he looked at Rowan, really looked at him, and something changed in his expression, as if he had finally realized why the White Raven had chosen this boy. "Because," Knox said quietly, "the last tomorrow belongs to you." Rowan froze. "What?" The chamber fell silent. Even the woman stopped smiling. Knox stepped toward him, silver eyes filled with something between hope and fear. "The raven didn't lead you here by accident." The gears overhead began turning again, slowly, deliberately. "The clock of tomorrows has been waiting for you for 13 years. Rowan's heart hammered. "Why?" Knox's answer barely rose above a whisper. "Because you are the only person who has ever been born without a fixed future." The crack exploded wider. Darkness surged from the moonstone. The woman laughed, and somewhere, far above the tower, the White Raven screamed, as if warning them that something had finally awakened, something that had been waiting since the destruction of the first clock, something that knew Rowan's name. and it was coming. The darkness erupted from the cracked moonstone clock. It poured across the chamber like a living tide, swallowing starlight, silencing gears, extinguishing reflections one by one. Rowan stumbled backward, his heart hammered so hard it hurt. "What do you mean I have no fixed future?" His voice echoed through the chamber. Knox didn't answer immediately. His silver eyes remained fixed on the spreading darkness, on the thing awakening within it. Because something was moving, something enormous, something old. The darkness twisted, folded, gathered itself together, and slowly a shape emerged. It looked almost human. Almost. Tall enough that its head nearly touched the floating gears. Its body seemed woven from fragments of broken reflections. Thousands of stolen futures flickered beneath its skin. Faces, memories, lives, dreams, all trapped inside it. And where its eyes should have been, there were galaxies. Dead galaxies. Rowan couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The creature smiled, and every clock in the tower stopped. Tick. Silence. For the first time since entering the chamber, there was no sound at all. The being looked directly at Rowan and spoke. At last. Its voice sounded like countless voices speaking together, young voices, old voices, happy voices, crying voices, millions. The child beyond fate. Rowan's blood ran cold. The old woman inside the reflection bowed her head, almost respectfully. "My lord." Knox stepped forward, positioning himself between Rowan and the creature. "You cannot have him." The creature laughed. The chamber trembled. "Cannot?" Its dead galaxy eyes gleamed. "I created him." Everything stopped. Even Knox froze. Rowan stared. "What?" The creature slowly descended from the darkness, not walking, floating, as though gravity itself obeyed it. "Long ago," it said softly, "when the first clock shattered, the chamber filled with visions, Rowan saw the destruction again, the ancient civilization collapsing, the great clock breaking, entire futures dying. But this time he saw something new, a tiny spark, a single thread of possibility, the very last untouched future remaining. One future, one tomorrow, one chance. The spark drifted through the destruction, through centuries, through kingdoms rising and falling, through generations, waiting, growing, becoming, until finally it became a child, a baby, wrapped in blankets, born beneath a meteor shower, born in Evershade, born as Rowan. The vision vanished. The creature smiled. "You were never meant to belong to a single future." Rowan felt dizzy. "No, you are the last tomorrow." The words echoed through the chamber. "You are the final possibility that survived the death of the first clock." The old woman began laughing. Knox looked away, because he knew it was true. Rowan shook his head. "No!" His voice cracked. "No, I'm just Rowan." The creature's smile softened, almost sadly. "That is what makes you dangerous. The darkness expanded further. Thousands more reflections disappeared, entire futures erased. Every future that exists, the being continued, branches from choice. It raised one hand, and countless golden threads appeared around Rowan. Some showed him becoming a king, others a sailor, a scholar, an inventor, a father, a wanderer, a hero, a villain. Thousands, millions, infinite possibilities. Unlike everyone else's futures narrowed, solidified, became predictable. But Rowan's never did. His future remained unwritten, and because of that, every possible tomorrow still lived within him. Knox's face turned pale. The realization struck him. The creature wasn't trying to kill Rowan. It wanted something worse. It wanted to use him, to absorb him, to absorb the final source of possibility left in existence. Because if Rowan fell, every remaining future would collapse into one. The last tomorrow, the ending of all endings, the final future, the only future, the future where nothing new could ever happen again. No dreams, no surprises, no choices, no hope. A perfectly predictable world, forever. The creature stepped closer. "Come willingly." Its voice was gentle now, persuasive, dangerous. "You are tired of uncertainty." Another step. "I can end every fear." Another. "I can make tomorrow certain." The darkness reached towards Rowan, and for a terrifying moment, a part of him wanted to listen, because certainty was comforting. No mistakes, no failure, no loss, no fear. Then he remembered something. His grandmother, sitting beside the fire, smiling. The best things in life happen when you don't know what's coming next, Rowan. The memory hit him like sunlight, and suddenly he understood. The future wasn't beautiful because it was certain. It was beautiful because it wasn't. Because nobody knew what tomorrow would bring. Because tomorrow could surprise you. Because tomorrow could be better. Rowan lifted his head, and for the first time since entering the tower, he smiled. No. The darkness paused. The creature blinked. Rowan stepped forward. Just one step, but the floating futures around him burst into light. Thousands, millions, endless possibilities, and every gear inside the clock of tomorrows began spinning again. Faster, faster, faster. The chamber shook violently. The white raven screamed from somewhere above. The old woman suddenly looked afraid, and the creature's smile vanished, because for the first time in countless centuries, something had happened that it had not foreseen. And somewhere deep inside the heart of the clock, a hidden door began to open. The hidden door opened with a sound unlike anything Rowan had ever heard. Not a creak, not a groan, not the grinding of ancient gears. It sounded like a page turning, a single page, as though the world itself had reached the end of one chapter and begun another. The chamber trembled violently. Golden gears spun faster and faster overhead. Streams of light poured between them like rivers. The darkness surrounding the creature recoiled. For the first time, fear flashed across its dead galaxy eyes. No. Its voice thundered through the tower. No, that door must never open. But it was already too late. The hidden doorway widened, silver light spilled outward, warm, gentle, ancient. And Rowan felt something calling him, not with words, not with commands, with recognition, as if the light had known him his entire life. Knox immediately understood. His silver eyes widened. "Rowan!" "What?" "You have to go through." The creature lunged. The darkness exploded across the chamber. Thousands of stolen futures screamed from within it. "Stop him!" The old woman raised her hands. Black cracks spread through the air itself. Reflections shattered. Golden threads snapped. The entire clock of tomorrows shook. Knox stepped forward. His silver cloak burst into starlight. "Run!" The darkness collided with him, and for a moment the chamber became a battlefield. Silver light, black shadow, broken futures, living possibilities. Knox fought like a storm, every movement scattering darkness, every strike sending waves of silver fire through the chamber. But Rowan could already see the truth. Knox wasn't winning. He was buying time, nothing more. The hidden doorway pulsed again, calling, waiting. Rowan took one last look at Knox. "Don't die." Knox smiled, a tired smile, a genuine one. "That's tomorrow's problem." Then Rowan ran, straight through the doorway. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything vanished. The tower, the gears, the darkness, the creature, gone. Rowan found himself standing beneath a sky unlike any sky he had ever seen. There was no sun, no moon, no stars. Instead, countless glowing clocks floated overhead. Millions of them, large as mountains, small as fireflies, each turning silently through an endless silver sky. The sight stole his breath. "What is this place?" "Home," the voice came from behind him. Rowan turned and froze. An old man sat beside a small wooden table. At first glance, he seemed ordinary. Simple gray robes, kind eyes, white hair. Yet the moment Rowan looked closer, he realized something impossible. The old man wasn't old, and he wasn't young. He seemed every age at once: a child, a father, a grandfather, a newborn, a dying man, all simultaneously, and somehow none of them. The old man smiled. "I've been waiting a very long time for you, Rowan." Rowan's heart pounded. "Who are you?" The old man picked up a tiny clock from the table, a beautiful little thing made of silver and gold. Then he answered. "I am called many names." The clock ticked softly in his hands. "Some called me the first clockmaker." Tick. "Some called me the keeper of moments." Tick. "Some called me time." Silence. Rowan stared. "You created the clock of tomorrows?" The old man nodded. "And every clock before it." His smile faded. "And every mistake that followed." The silver sky darkened slightly. The countless floating clocks slowed. The clockmaker looked toward the horizon. "There isn't much time left." The irony would have been funny under different circumstances, but nothing felt funny anymore. The clockmaker stood, and Rowan finally noticed what sat behind him. A door. Massive, ancient, sealed shut with chains of light. The sight sent ice through Rowan's veins because he somehow knew what was behind it. The last tomorrow. The true last tomorrow. Not the creature, not the old woman. Something far older, far worse. The source. The clockmaker followed Rowan's gaze. His expression grew heavy. "When the first clock broke," he said quietly, "I locked away the ending of existence itself." The chains rattled. Something moved behind the door. A deep sound echoed from the other side. Not a growl, not a voice. A heartbeat. One impossibly enormous heartbeat. Thump. The entire silver sky trembled. Thump. Several floating clocks cracked. The clockmaker closed his eyes. The prison is failing. Rowan stared at the chained door. What happens if it gets out? The old man looked at him, and for the first time, Rowan saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. It ends. Another heartbeat shook the realm. The chains snapped tighter. But one link broke. Just one. And somewhere beyond the silver doorway, something ancient opened its eyes. The silver realm trembled. Millions of floating clocks spun wildly overhead. Some cracked, some stopped, some simply vanished. And beyond the chained door at the edge of existence, something waited. Something that had been waiting since before kingdoms, before stars, before the first story was ever told. Thump! The heartbeat echoed again, louder now, closer. The chains of light rattled violently. Another link snapped. The clockmaker lowered his head. For a moment he looked impossibly tired. Not old, tired. The exhaustion of someone who had been holding back the end of everything for far too long. "It is waking," he whispered. Rowan stared at the door. Every instinct told him to run, to hide, to wake up, to be anywhere except here. But there was nowhere else to go. "What is it?" he asked. The clockmaker looked toward the prison. His eyes reflected centuries, entire ages, lost worlds, forgotten civilizations. "It is the final certainty." The words felt heavy, dangerous. When existence began, infinite futures existed. The silver sky filled with glowing paths, billions upon billions of possibilities stretching forever. Every choice created another path. More paths appeared, endless, beautiful, alive. But at the end of every possibility, the clockmaker's voice lowered, there was always one future waiting. The glowing paths began converging, merging, collapsing. One destination, one ending, one unavoidable future. The last tomorrow. The door opened fully, and something stepped out. Rowan expected a monster, a giant, a god, a horror. Instead, he saw himself. His breath caught. The figure looked exactly like Rowan, only older, much older. Its eyes contained entire lifetimes. Its expression held no joy, no sorrow, no hope, only certainty. The older Rowan smiled. "Hello." The silver sky went silent. The clockmaker stepped back, because even he could not interfere now. The older Rowan approached calmly. "You know who I am." The real Rowan nodded, slowly. "You are me." The older version smiled. "I am what remains when every choice is finished." Another step. "I am the future where every possibility has ended." Another. "I am certainty." Rowan's heart pounded. The older Rowan extended a hand. You can stop all suffering. The floating clock slowed. You can stop every mistake. The silver realm became still. You can create a perfect future. The hand remained extended. All you have to do, the older Rowan smiled gently, is choose me. Silence. The offer hung in the air. No more fear, no more uncertainty, no more loss. A perfect tomorrow, forever. The temptation was overwhelming. Rowan thought about every mistake he had ever made, every regret, every fear, every painful memory. How easy it would be. How comforting. Then he remembered his grandmother. Her laugh, her stories, the way she always smiled when something unexpected happened. A life without surprises isn't a life at all, Rowan. He remembered the white raven, the clock tower, Knox, every impossible thing that had happened simply because tomorrow was unknown. And suddenly, he understood. The future wasn't valuable because it was perfect. The future was valuable because it wasn't. Because every morning arrives unwritten. Because hope only exists where uncertainty exists. Because tomorrow matters precisely because nobody knows what it contains. Rowan smiled. Then he shook his head. No. The older Rowan froze. For the first time, certainty looked surprised. No? The real Rowan stepped forward. No. His voice grew stronger. I don't want a perfect future. The floating clocks brightened. I want a real one. Golden light burst from his chest. The countless possibilities hidden inside him awakened. Millions, billions, infinite futures. Every path, every dream, every tomorrow. The entire silver sky exploded into light. The older Rowan staggered backward. Impossible. Certainty was losing to possibility, to hope, to choice. The last tomorrow began cracking, tiny fractures spreading across its body. The older Rowan looked down, not angry, not afraid, almost relieved. Then he smiled, a genuine smile, the first real smile Rowan had seen on his face. Good. The cracks widened. Then the future is safe. And with that, the last tomorrow shattered, not into darkness, into stars, countless stars, each one becoming a new possibility, a new path, a new tomorrow. The silver sky erupted with light. The floating clocks began moving again, stronger than before, brighter than before, alive. The clockmaker closed his eyes and smiled. For the first time in ages, it is done. The realm began fading. The clocks, the sky, the door, the light, everything dissolving. Rowan felt himself falling through endless stars, falling through countless tomorrows, until he opened his eyes. Morning sunlight streamed through the clock tower windows. The moonstone clock stood silent, peaceful, whole. The crack was gone. Knox stood nearby, waiting. The silver-eyed guardian smiled faintly. Welcome back. Rowan looked toward the window. The white raven sat on the ledge, watching the sunrise. And for the first time in his life, he didn't wonder what tomorrow would bring. Because he finally understood. The mystery was the gift. The uncertainty was the miracle. And somewhere beyond sight, beyond clocks, beyond time itself, a new future had already begun. The end. Closing lines. And so the boy who borrowed tomorrow learned the secret hidden inside every sunrise. The future is not precious because it is guaranteed. The future is precious because it is unknown. Every dream, every friendship, every adventure, every act of courage begins with a tomorrow no one can predict. And perhaps that is the greatest magic of all. For as long as there are choices left to make, the story is never truly over.